And are you refreshed? Yes. Good. Now what?
Hello. Thank you, Abraham. I wasn't expecting this. So I'm an artist, and I understood a lot of the rapper because I've had to manifest things, and I've been very good at manifesting things throughout my entire life. Your words just give me a vocabulary to talk about the things I've been doing naturally for most of my life. It's not that hard to manifest. I know how to do it. I do it very well. That's not my problem. One of the issues that I wanted to ask about, though, is, and I have some confusion about this because I understand living in the moment and being in the moment and finding joy in this moment. I get that. I mean, I so get that. And I just get that. That's the answer, right? Okay, so if that's the answer...
Next.
Yeah, that is the answer. I got it. So if that's the answer, then why is it at 49 years of age, I am still trying to escape from experiences I've had from my past? I get and I believe, and you're so right, that being joyful today and being present today is the answer. And yet I've experienced in my own life is that I had painful experiences, traumatic experiences from my childhood. And what my life seems to keep happening to me is that I'll have to recreate the traumatic experience so that the initial pain from the initial experience, which I wasn't able to process at the time because I wasn't conscious enough or whatever.
It's all right.
And now it needs to come to the surface. And to the extent that I've been able to do that, and I've been working on this for a long time, to release the energy from these past traumatic experiences. So now do I have to live through it once? Now I've got to live through it again.
Well, there's a flawed premise in that. And some people believe that, and some are teaching that you have to go back and deal with it and get to the bottom of it. And we say there's no bottom. Because when you focus upon it again, you activate what it was again and you bring it forward. So it's like practicing the vibration each time it happens. And you're wanting to say, but I'm not going there deliberately, it's coming up. And the reason it's coming up is because there's still some active vibration about it that still has enough momentum that certain things in your now environment trigger it. If you're really looking around in the world and watching television or reading or even going to movies, there may be something that happens that triggers that vibration within you that reactivates it again. And that's okay. You don't need to go live in a cave and withdraw from life in order to prevent that. But that is why it's happening. There are some vibrations that are still active that become activated by different things that you focus upon. But we're going to give you something here that dovetails into what we've been talking about already here today, that will really give you some release and relief from that. It can free you from that. And it's such a simple equation that it will surprise you. But we want to begin by saying that, or by asking, we want to ask all of you, are there topics in your life, we know there are, but we want you to focus upon them just briefly for a moment, where whenever they come up, it's just plain unsatisfying to you when they come up. Some subjects that you are just dissatisfied about. When Esther thinks about Jerry making his transition to the non-physical, she's just dissatisfied about that. She sugarcoats it as much as she can, and she listens to us talk about all the benefit of it. But the fact of it is, she walks the loop with more satisfaction with Jerry than she walks the loop without Jerry. There is some dissatisfaction that just happens. And so one of the things that you have to do is you have to acknowledge when your moments are moments of satisfaction and when your moments are moments of dissatisfaction. And when there is a moment of dissatisfaction, you got to change the subject. You got to change the subject to a subject that is satisfying. Because you can't take a dissatisfying experience and turn it into a satisfying experience. You just got to change the subject. And if you change the subject enough, it won't be active within you anymore, so it won't come up.
May I?
Yes, before you argue for your limitation, and it's all right. It's all right. We just want you to settle into that just for a moment, because we're not going to demand that you admit this, but it is helpful when you come to the awareness that in every moment I can be satisfied or dissatisfied. On every subject, I can't be satisfied rather than dissatisfied, because some subjects, like children going to bed hungry, is just an unsatisfying thought. I just cannot focus upon that thought and feel satisfaction. And to ask myself to do that is asking something that I cannot do. You just have to acknowledge that. But this moment does not have to be an unsatisfying moment, because you do have some choice in what you focus upon. Unless, of course, momentum has taken it to a place where you feel like you have no choice, which you can work your way out of that through meditation and appreciation and so on. And so?
Well, so I'm at peace with the events that have happened in my life. They happen.
No, you're not. This is what we would mean by at peace. I'm at peace or at rest, meaning that vibration has been deactivated because I focused away from it long enough. If it keeps coming up, you are not at peace or at rest. You've got an active vibration. It's all right. It's all right. It would be healthier, more beneficial for you to say, I've got a subject in my life, and whenever I focus upon it, I feel dissatisfaction, and well, I should. That was not a satisfying time of my life, but it was then, and this is now. And now I have this that I'm satisfied about, and this, and this, and oh, and that, 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 and that. And that, 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 and that. This is going to take a long time. And that, and that, and that, and that, and that. And with enough of that, day after day, which you will be more prone to with meditation, that old active vibration, there will be not enough time difference, because you have the ability to remember until the day you are no longer in this body things that happened in the first weeks of your experience. Memory is not about a storage cabinet or a file cabinet. It's about an active vibration. And so you will never outlive your capacity to remember something unwanted, but you can tune yourself to a vibrational frequency where it just doesn't come up, because your practiced vibration is different. Hard to argue with the law. Esther has a friend who sent her the words, I fought the law and the law won. But it's also not a good idea to argue with your life experience. In other words, because you believe what you believe because of the experience that you've had.
Well, the problem for me is that the life experiences I've had they're deep. It's in the grooves, right? It's in the cracks. It's in the crevices. I love the saying that Abraham has is, choose a thought that feels good to you when you think it. I love that. That's great. So you just kind of think, well, if I just choose happy thoughts, I'll be happy. But the problem with some of the experiences I've had is that they've made me attuned. I'm not saying made me want, but they made me attuned to something I don't want. Like, it'd be easy if I just knew all the things that would make me happy. But the problem with that is that I tend to go towards things that make me unhappy, thinking they will make me happy.
You don't need to know all of the things, just one thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but my mechanism inside is kind of
we know what you're getting
screwed.
at. What you're getting at is a little screwy. There's a flawed premise there. Let us tell you what you're getting at and why. Because of the nature of your being and your work and the way your mind works, there's a certain benefit in pathos. Knowing what you don't want helps you to know more clearly what you do want. And so part of you is keeping it active, because out of it comes some poignant things that people are relating to in their now experience, and there's an advantage to you and to them in some of that. Consider that the contrast in all things, such as without silence, there couldn't be an appreciation of sound. Without darkness, there couldn't be an appreciation of light. But let's even be more clear. Without silence, you wouldn't know what sound was. Without darkness, you wouldn't know what light is. In other words, it takes both ends of that spectrum in order to focus you into an experience. And so unwanted and wanted go very well together in terms of focusing. But now, as you acknowledge the way this really works, that in unwanted there is wanted, and in wanted there is momentum, and in that momentum now there's a sharper awareness of wanted or unwanted. You just can't get around the fact that you came for joyous experience and that you didn't mean to feel bad. That in this satisfaction, there must be some dissatisfaction, but the extremes do not have to be so great. And what happens with a lot of people, especially if they are in an environment that they can't control for a good part of their early life, is that they live unwanted and it causes them to want, but then they can't have what they want because they're still living unwanted, which causes them to want more, but they still don't think they can have it because they're still living unwanted. And so there's this feeling of entrapment because my circumstances won't let me be free enough to have what I want. But now the trap that you're feeling, because the circumstances are no longer there. Now the circumstances are just the circumstances of memory or the circumstances of vibration. And now you do have control. You always did, you just didn't know it. But that control doesn't come easy because the patterns of thought are still there. And that's a good thing, because each time you trip on or stumble across another pattern of that thought, now knowing what you now know, you recognize it. Only now you're doing what a lot of people do. Esther put this in her pocket just for you. Now you're doing what a lot of people are doing. You are recognizing the unwanted and beating up on yourself for being there. In other words, that's why we like step 5 so much, where you're going along and you spoke so accurately. Abraham, I'm living a really good life and I'm a deliberate creator and I can get what I want and I don't have a problem with that. And I'm tuned in, tapped in, turned on much of the time. Every bit of that true. But every now and again, I go back into a strong step 1 moment. And then what happens is you beat up on yourself for having that step 1 moment, because it feels like that practiced not being in control. Well, we want to announce to you and to everybody, you're not ever going to control law of attraction. Law of attraction is always going to have its way with you. So if you've got an active vibration, law of attraction is going to make it more and more and more and more and more, until you finally just come to the place where you say, hey, I lived some stuff that was crap. It was just not right. It was just not right on any level. And we want you to announce to the universe, I will never feel satisfaction when I think about that. That was an unsatisfying experience, and that is not something that I wanted, and that produced this desire, which I like. But that is unsatisfying. That is unsatisfying. I didn't want to live it. I shouldn't have lived it. I don't want to live it again. And there's nothing wrong with me for being able to discern wanted and unwanted. And that's unwanted. That's unwanted. But now I have choice now. And my choices will get easier and easier and easier as I choose more that is satisfying and more that is satisfying and more that is satisfying. And the thing that is wonderful that you're not ready to receive, almost nobody would be under these conditions, there's going to be a time in your life that that's going to feel more satisfying to you, because you'll know that this was produced out of that, and this is so fantastic. This was produced out of that, and this is so fantastic. So much of who I am was produced out of this, and this is so fantastic. But don't try to go back to the specifics of it and cover up an empty gas gauge with a happy face sticker, because when you're out of gas, you're out of gas, and that's all right. That's all right. And later you can go fill up your tank. Yeah. Helpful? Did we really get there for you?
Yes. Thank you.
Really good. Really good.